Greetings, program.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. I had a chance to see Tron Ares, so this is going to be my review of the movie. There's a lot to unpack, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. This is Disney's latest attempt to turn Tron into a much bigger franchise. We've actually seen them try to do this with Tron Legacy before when they did their first sequel. We will talk about how this latest attempt in Tron Ares compares to Tron Legacy and the original Tron movie, and what will undoubtedly go down as the even bigger debate, 9 Inch Nails Tron versus Daft Punk Tron. And even though I am a massive Daft Punk fan, love that Tron Legacy Daft Punk soundtrack, 9 Inch Nails Tron Ares soundtrack goes so hard. That was probably one of the most important things for them to get right for this movie, and thankfully they did. You can thank Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and whoever at Disney actually thought it was a good idea to reach out to them to do the soundtrack, just because it was such an easy slam dunk, and they did slam dunk that soundtrack. Even if you are not big on the vibe of Tron movies in general, you will love this soundtrack. All Tron soundtracks are great.
9 Inch Nails, man.
There are a couple real big key things in this movie that it has going for it and working against it. It addresses some of the criticisms of Tron Legacy, but suffers from a lot of other problems. So we'll start with the best of it, then we'll talk about the worst of it, because there are a couple of complaints that I had about the movie. Just like Tron Legacy before, if we're talking about the sequels here, probably the best thing about Tron Ares is the banger soundtrack. This time, from 9 Inch Nails, all the trailers did a pretty decent job of selling the more hardcore, industrialized tone of this movie compared to the more soulful, contemplative tone of Tron Legacy. In fact, one of the good things about this movie that actually works in its favor is the proliferance of AI in the public consciousness right now in real life, just in general the last couple of years. Disney did not plan that when it started developing Tron Ares a couple years ago. It just wound up working out that way. They'd already been getting into this idea during the first Tron movie and during Tron Legacy, but now it just feels like it's much more relevant in the public consciousness. So the move from Daft Punk to 9 Inch Nails felt appropriate during the movie just based on the tone and the stuff they were dealing with in the characters they were choosing to focus on in the movie. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross's style just fit the movie a little bit better than Daft Punk would have, but part of me does feel like they would have tried to get Daft Punk to come back to do this soundtrack again had they not have broken up the last couple of years when the movie was still in development. But Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross go with Tron just in general, like a slightly different flavor of very fine wine.
Wendy Carlos, and then Daft Punk.
You needed somebody that could fill those shoes.
Very good, man.
So that probably wound up working in the movie's favor. Downward Spiral, still probably one of the first albums everyone, me, my friends at school were crazy about as children, that my parents definitely would not let me own. Daft Punk didn't really start being a big thing around me and my friends until college a little bit later. 9 Inch Nails was actually much bigger for us much sooner. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, also been doing way more movie and TV soundtracks recently, so it's been fun hearing their newer stuff when you actually spot it in movies and TV shows. Looking back a number of years, there had been a Tron Legacy sequel in the works since right after that one came out in the spin-off TV show with Elijah Wood and Mandy Moore. Then that wound up in development hell, languishing for years on a shelf until eventually Disney decided to start fresh with a requel in what became Tron Ares, sort of a sequel and a reboot of the franchise just in general. Jared Leto became attached in the mid-2010s, right after he did Suicide Squad with his version of the Joker, long before Morbin time ever became a thing. I know there are going to be a ton of questions about that too. This movie was not full Morbin time. He did not go full Morbin time. He was very toned down in this movie, to my surprise. If you wonder why it took Disney so long to actually make another Tron sequel, really it's because of Marvel and Star Wars. Blame them. Right around the time Tron Legacy came out was around the time Marvel has started its meteoric rise, taking over Hollywood, peaking out with Avengers, Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, and right as Disney was buying Star Wars from George Lucas, so all their attention was going to their big money earners at that time, Marvel and Star Wars, so it felt like they just didn't really care about Tron, like, oh, we're not making that much money on it, so we'll just put it on a shelf and try it again a number of years later, and then cut to a number of years later, Marvel hits a very fallow point, they're not doing so hard. Star Wars also hits their fallow point, not doing so hot. So suddenly it feels like a good time to try something else again, and something else winds up being Tron. Like, oh, hey, why don't we try that again? So if you're happy that they're finally spending more time back in the world of Tron, thank the fall of Marvel and Star Wars recently for that. All the trailers for this movie did a pretty good job of showing you how it tries to be more of a requel to the Tron franchise, like a sequel to Tron Legacy, while at the same time trying to do a soft reboot on the franchise in general. Just because it had been so long since Tron Legacy came out, they probably didn't feel like Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde were quite as bankable, so they didn't want to pin the entire movie on them. Without getting into spoilers, the movie does try to fit all the previous Tron movies in with it in an overarching timeline and set up future sequels so that any Tron movies that they do in the future will all fit in a neat timeline together with each other. Disney also kind of just did this with Alien Romulus too, where they tried to requel the Alien movies, where they set up their own line of Alien movies, but also keeping the other ones that they wanted to in canon with it. If you are a longtime Tron fan, you will instantly spot all the Easter eggs and references to the previous two Tron movies, but if this is your first Tron movie, or if you don't care about any of that stuff, the callbacks, the references, don't completely hijack the plot or take you out of the movie, which is probably going to go down as the weakest part of the movie. The actual plot itself is very, very basic, to the point of being kind of non-existent. If we're actually comparing this against the previous Tron movies, I still think that the first Tron movie has the most interesting actual plot for a movie. Tron Ares, visually much, much more vibrant, visually much better than Tron Legacy, but in terms of overall pacing, the actual plot is not really a clear victory between sequels. Most of Tron Ares' strengths are the visuals and the soundtrack, as you would expect. If you are able to, I do think you have to see this new movie in IMAX 3D to get the full effect of the visuals. It's way more kinetic than the previous movies. Kind of feels like that was their big note going into this movie, that they felt like Tron Legacy was too slow of a film. There are enough beats in the movie to explain where this one fits in the timeline. This one takes place several years after the events of Tron Legacy. Greta Lee is the CEO of ENCOM when the movie picks up, having taken over for Sam Flynn. Her character and Jared Leto's Ares wind up being the biggest main characters in the movie of all the main characters. Jared Leto plays Ares, the newest version of Master Control built by Julian Dillinger, Evan Peters' character, who is the grandson of Edward Dillinger. Gillian Anderson plays Elizabeth Dillinger, Julian's mother and Edward's daughter, who was the CEO of Dillinger's company that he created after he was ousted from ENCOM during the events of the first movie. So there's like some loose explainers for where this fits in the timeline and what happened with some of the major characters from the previous movie, but not every single character. So there are a couple gaps. Like if you're real big on Tron lore, you will have a couple questions coming out of this movie that they clearly left for future movies to answer. I know there are going to be a ton of questions about really important characters from previous movies. Don't want to answer too many spoiler questions in this video. If you have seen the movie, please don't post big spoilers in this. We can talk about that later. Not to damn it with too much faint praise, but it does feel like it's the first act of a new 3-act movie. Like it's just the first part of a more complete story, so it feels pretty thin, and that's why. They very clearly went into this movie wanting to set up a bunch of future sequels.
My world is coming, and they are going to destroy yours.
A lot of the big questions this movie deals with, what it means to be alive, what is consciousness, can a program have a soul, things that all the previous Tron movies actually did start dealing with. They also covered heavily during the Alien Earth TV show with the hybrid storyline. In Tron Ares also suffers from a lot of the same problems that Alien Earth Season 1 also suffered from, in that it feels kind of incomplete and wants to punt a lot of the answers to the questions it raises to the next movie in the case of Tron Ares. Was really cool seeing Jeff Bridges come back, always cool seeing him in the Tron movies. He was only a very tiny but very important part of the movie, unlike Tron Legacy, where he was a much, much bigger part of the plot. The dude abides the grid. Evan Peters felt like he was trying to channel a much more cartoony Sam Banks-Friedman with the whole AI subplot, the commentary that the movie tries to get into. To make another Alien Earth reference, he was kind of like another version of the Boy Cavalier character. Very young tech wonderkind who acts extremely irresponsibly, causing a lot of the problems that they wind up dealing with during the course of the movie. Only because we are in a Tron movie, you're talking about unleashing the grid on the real world, which the trailers get into, which they only started to deal with during the first movie. That was basically where the original Tron Legacy sequel was headed, with the grid basically moving into the real world. Always been a big fan of Gillian Anderson, but I'm not sure why they cast her in this movie. She barely has anything to do, like she doesn't really have much of a character, and that's true of a lot of the supporting characters in this movie. Presumably, if this does well enough to get a sequel, my assumption is that a lot of those side characters will just get meatier roles in the next movies. Most of the conversation outside of the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack for this will probably be on the actual ending of the film. Without getting into spoilers, there is a post-credit scene of sorts. It's a pretty huge moment meant to set up the next movie in like a very direct kind of way with a very big callback to the original Tron movie, but it feels like it's more for the longtime fans than the brand new ones. You don't actually have to have seen the original movie to understand the ending, but it will make the ending better, so I would recommend checking out the original movie if you have not seen it yet. Ranking all 3 Tron movies so far, like I said, the original Tron movie still probably has the most interesting actual plot. Tron Legacy and Tron Ares are kind of tied in a wash just in terms of which is better, with both films doing some things better and some things worse than the other. Except for the soundtracks, every single one of the 3 Tron movie soundtracks are all amazing. I would not be surprised if Disney announces another Tron TV show at some point, but given how much they've recently pulled back on their budgets and Disney Plus output, that could wind up getting canceled before it starts, just because it would feel like it would have to be very, very expensive if it were going to be live action. Probably waiting to see how this movie does before they greenlight a larger franchise of movies and TV shows, but there are a number of clear points during this movie where they're very clearly setting all that stuff up. Once you do have a chance to see the movie, post all your reactions in the comments below. Please do not post spoilers on this video. I'll try to do a spoiler video later where we talk about all the Easter eggs, the ending of the movie, and the future of the Tron franchise just in general. This week is also New York Comic Con. There'll be many trailers and announcements for all kinds of different stuff. We have more Gen V, Peacemaker finale. My videos for all those things will post as soon as possible, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel to be the first to watch those. Everybody click here for all my New York Comic Con trailer videos, and click here for my Peacemaker finale video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.